So I had somebody the other day, I talk about this a lot in the videos I do out in the garden. Somebody the other day was asking, what crops do you like to push the limits with as far as trying to extend your season or maybe planting something earlier than most people think you could and stuff like that. And there's a lot of things beets are one of the things I try to push the limits with, getting X amount of crops out of a certain growing season. But this time of year, I try to push the limits with squash and cucumbers, and I've recently been pushing the limits with sweet corn. I got some temperature sweet corns looking great, and I believe if you've got adequate irrigation, I don't know if I'd try it without drip, but growing it, succession planting all throughout the warm season, I believe it can be done.
Oh yeah, I do too.
Now, buddy Andy Webb was in here the other day, and he was getting him some at temperatures to grow, and I was giving him little tips. When you're growing it, when it's getting hot like this, in the spring when it's a little cooler, you got a little more leeway, but when you're growing it when it's real hot, you got to be right on time with your fertilizer and stuff. If you miss the boat by a week or so, you're going to end up with some short corn.
Yeah, well, the heat units in the summertime, it grows off a lot quicker, so your days to maturity is skewed a little bit on that.
And it's going to tassel out at a shorter height, and you got to be ready to hit it when it needs hitting. And I think it's important if you grow it in the summer, you really need some nutrients in that soil already, so they're not waiting on you to feed it. But with that being said, my second succession planting of squash is coming in, and I want to show you these guys here. This is a variety we added, you can hold that up there, earlier this year called Slick Pick. Now I want to show you these, and these squash ain't gonna win no beauty contest.
That's got to be one of the ugliest squash I've ever laid eyes on.
Let me just tell you something. These things ain't gonna win a beauty contest, I will tell you. But this is the earliest making squash I have ever seen in my life. But come off in about 30 days or so, 35, something like that. I've got the Gold Star planted right beside it, and the Gold Star was my winner for my first planting. And these things are earlier and more productive. I'm getting, each plant has anywhere from 4 to 6 of these on it. Now you pick them kind of small and slender like this, and like I said, they ain't the most gorgeous squash out there. But as far as early production and heavy production, I've never seen anything like it.
I've never grown those before.
And I think this is going to be the perfect size if you want to slice them like a mandolin, fry some up.
Oh yeah, I was thinking about that. They would be perfect for that.
So back to what I was saying about, you know, taking a chance, trying to squeeze in one more crop. If you're going to do that, you need to go with early varieties or early maturing varieties. That way, if something does come along, get them, at least you get a few harvests. Or you need to go with really disease-resistant varieties. So that's what I would say. If you're going to push the limits right now, fast maturing varieties or really disease-resistant varieties. And these things are fast maturing.
Also understand that later in the season, the more insect pressure you're going to have. So early in the spring, we can get by with not spraying quite as much as we can now. You can get by, if you get a little lazy on your spraying in the springtime, sometimes you get forgiveness there because the insect pressure is just simply not there. This time of the year, they build up and they're there, so you got to make sure that you stay on a precise program with your insecticides. Get those insects when they're small, because if they ever the populations get built up on you, you can forget it.
Yeah, and this time of year is when sometimes I will start spraying twice a week. If it gets real heavy. I noticed on some of my tomatoes, some of my cherry tomatoes the other day, I haven't seen a whole lot of squash bug pressure yet. Seen a few eggs, not a whole lot of pressure. I saw some leaf-footed bugs, a pretty decent population of them on some of my cherry tomatoes. I hit them hard with some spinosad. I haven't seen them come back yet, but they were adults, which means we're probably going to have some troubles pretty soon.
Yeah, and there's no such thing as eradication. You're not going to eradicate every insect out there, so you're going to have some problems with some insects. What you want to do is you want to control them to a point where you don't get significant damage. So the key word there is control. It's not eradicate, so don't freak out if you see 2 or 3. You just don't want the population to build up so you have some dramatic damage out there, and you can negate that by keeping your populations down.
Can you sit those over there? I'm running out of room on my shelf over here. I got something else here, and I know you've been itching to try some of these.
Ooh, I sure have.
So I brought some. These are our black zebra cherry tomatoes. And before you eat one, let me give a little buffer here. So these things, they get bigger than a normal cherry tomato. The other thing is they take quite a while to start turning.
I've noticed that.
And the other thing is I don't know how dark they'll get. You know, these here, I tried one last night. I've tried a couple of them, and they're pretty good. They got good flavor to them. I don't know if they get darker than this. The outside texture feels a little firmer than a normal cherry tomato. And when you bite into it here in a minute, you'll see what I'm talking about. The wall on these is a lot thicker than a normal cherry tomato, but it has a really, really good flavor to it.
My plant has, that I've got, has struggled a little bit compared to the sweetie. I was really looking forward to these, and I'm still going to get a decent crop, but it's about half the size of what my sweetie is.
My plants are about half the size, but as far as fruit loaded up, these are just equally loaded with big clusters. So
There's one thing I wish I'd have planted more of this year, and this is it.
you
I
want to give it a try?
I would like to have had 3 or 4 rows on those. Yeah.
You see that?
Look at the inside of that.
That's pretty, ain't it?
It is. It does have a good bit thicker rind on there.
But it's got kind of that smoky flavor, almost like the black cream. Good acidity to it.
Yeah, that's good.
Pretty inside there. And if you had your market stand or something, I believe you could sell those like
Ooh,
hotcakes.
they're beautiful.
You could put them in. We usually get about $5 a pint on cherry tomatoes, and you can fill up a pint pretty quickly.
Would you say they're about twice the size of what a sweetie is? Close to
a
it?
sweetie or a sun gold? Yeah, close to twice that size, I would say. What else we got going on?
Well, you know, it's this time of the year where everything's coming in the garden, and we get a little frustrated because we got so much harvest. We've done a good job growing the garden. Tomatoes coming in, peas is coming in, corn has come in, and we got a lot of things, and we don't know what to do with everything. We don't want it to go to waste. So, what I've got is a solution to your problem.
A comprehensive solution to your problem.
Let me tell you something. This right here is a homemade vegetable soup mix that Miss Hoss makes. She's been doing this for quite a while now. Now this is done under pressure. Now the recipe on this right here, we will post in the description below.
I got it right here.
You got it.
Yeah.
But we're also going to post it in the description below, correct?
Yeah, or not necessarily in the description. When we do, when the girls do a blog post on it on our website, we'll have it. We'll go through the ingredients real quick, and then you can talk about it. So we got 2/3 of a 5-gallon bucket. I don't know why she just say 3 gallons. Anyway, 3 gallons of ripe tomatoes, 2 quarts of peas, 6 medium onions, 2 quarts butter beans, 6 bell pepper, 12 banana pepper, half cup of vinegar, 5 teaspoons canning salt, 2 quarts of corn, celery, some okra, tomato juice, and a little sugar. So we got it all right here. If you want to take a screenshot of that, or you can pause the video and write that down, or wait a week or so and we'll have it up on the blog.
Yeah.
You can check it out there.
Now this is canned under pressure here, but this is all made from fresh vegetables. Now don't be going to the store and buying canned stuff, you're gonna mess it up. This is all fresh vegetables out of the garden. We put up a good many of these, and then when you get ready come wintertime to use this, take it out, put some hamburger meat, brown you some hamburger meat, or take you a ham bone and put in there some type of meat and warm it up and cook it together, and you got yourself a wonderful, wonderful meal. And this is a great way to use up all those vegetables that you got in the vegetable garden. Vegetable soup has been a staple at our household for a long time. I don't know if we would have survived coming up if it hadn't been for vegetable soup. My mother cooked a lot of it, and let me tell you something, we was poor, and we needed all we could get to survive. Just tell you how poor we were. We had to share a toothbrush. We was just so poor. That's pretty poor.
As far as cooking that goes, Ms. Hoss said mix all the ingredients, bring it to a boil, cook on medium heat for 30 minutes, and place in the jars. And then as far as the pressure canning, she did 10 pounds of pressure for 30 minutes.
Right.
Now, not to poo-poo on your parade a little bit, And my wife wishes I liked it because she likes that stuff. But I've never been a fan of vegetable soup.
Ooh, I love it.
I like all my vegetables individually. I'm not a big fan of mixing a bunch of stuff together. So it's beautiful. I like it and I appreciate it. I'm just not never just been a big vegetable soup.
You ain't never been as hungry as I have.
Well, I just like to keep everything separate.
Yeah.
Enjoy the flavor of everything individually. What else we got going on? Oh, speaking of canning, so you got yours. We put up some tomatoes the other day, and this stuff right here is a staple around our house when it comes wintertime, making chili, sketty, all kind of good stuff like that. And I think we put up about 12 jars the other night, probably going to put up another 12, 15 this weekend. That's about all I like to do at one time.
Yeah, you don't want to burn yourself out. Now, that's done in a water bath, correct?
Yeah. And excuse me. If you follow our Instagram channel, we'll have some videos up this week, towards the end of this week. Me and my wife showing kind of our process of doing this. Or if you watch the Garden Goodies compilation on Sunday on YouTube, it'll be pieced together on there as well. So good stuff there.
We got an opportunity this last week to do our owl squash tasting.
Yeah.
And it was a winner. It's some very good squash. I cooked it a couple different times. I'm still going to do the soup. Haven't done the soup recipe yet. But I baked it in the oven like I normally do my winter squash, and it was delicious.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a winner on the taste
I
test.
haven't had a chance to cook the one you give me. I did notice that the longer they store, the orange really starts to pop on the fruits there.
It is. It wasn't stringy at all. It had a nice texture inside there.
The rind held up well. You could scoop it out.
Yeah, it scooped that well. I hadn't done a bricks or sugar content test on there, but my gut tells me it's real similar to a delicata. Okay. Maybe a little bit more nuttier flavor than a delicata's got. But the sweetness was definitely there.
You think it stores better than delicata?
I would say so. From what I've seen,
delicatas don't store very long.
No. From what I've seen so far, I think it may store a little bit better. Now that being said, it's not going to be a 6-month store for you.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 months, 2.5, 3 months at the most is going to be it, I think.
So you can cook it and freeze it.
Sure.
Think you can make a pumpkin pie out of it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
We got some new merch.
New merch
coming along. So my little headgear today. Did you notice?
Nice.
So lots of new stuff coming. The t-shirts we just got in today. They should be possibly. They're on the site now. They're just out of stock, and you can request an email when they're in stock. But we should be packing those pretty soon. Hopefully by the airing of this show, we'll have some of those on the site. We've got three versions in, the row by row, this Let the Beat Drop, and then that radish shirt, and then we got an ochre shirt coming, and I got 2 more. So we'll have 6 designs total. A lot of people were saying they wanted sizes larger than just XX. The last one I ordered, we got a wheel hose shirt. I got some larger sizes on it. As we reorder this other stuff, we'll try to get some larger.
Now let's go again. You got an X large on.
I got an extra large on.
I think I'm gonna wear a 2X.
And these are nice, soft, really good, really high quality shirts. Tri-blend, I think is what they call them. So it's a blended material. Just feels really soft, really nice and lightweight.
Let's talk about the bandana.
Bandanas. Yeah. So we got these in. And we're going to have a couple different designs on these. This is our first one here. This is our chili pepper bandana. So this is a kind of, it may look white on camera, but it's kind of an off-white cream color. Got our logo on it. And you can wear this several different ways.
Yes, you can.
You can fold it like this.
You can do-rag it.
Yeah, tie it around your head like that. Do-rag it. Or you can fold it up like I've got it here and do it ninja style.
Ninja style, or you can go cowboy style.
What's cowboy style?
Cowboy.
Oh, like that? Yeah.
Like a bill.
Yeah.
And you put it in cowboy style.
Okay.
You never watched the Westerns like I did you?
What was funny is...
that way if you get in the dust storm, you can go up like this right here.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
When we first got these in, I brought them home, and my wife said, "What are you wearing on your head?" And I said, "This is our new bandanas." And she said, what's people going to do with them bandanas? And my little boy Abram was sitting right there. He said, "Mama," He said, you can wear it as a handkerchief, you can wipe your mouth with it, you wipe your hands with it, you wipe your nose with it, you wear it on your head. He gave about 20 different uses for it, and she said, well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So he was ready. Lots of different uses for these. Keep in your pocket, wear them on your head.
Nice soft cotton bandanas.
Yeah, 22 by 22 big ones there. We got those, and then these, which I'm really excited about. So for you folks out there that, I know some of you said that those hats right there are a little, maybe you got a larger noggin than most, and those hats are a little bit bigger or a little small for you. We got these straw hats in here. These are real nice straw hats. I'm a little bit of a straw hat connoisseur. I can wear one out pretty good, and these are pretty high quality. We've got the embroidered band on there with our logo. What I like about these is the brim here can be kind of molded to however you like it. So if you like it more flat, you can go that way. If you want to kind of cowboy it up, fold it up that way, it'll stay like that. You can kind of mold it to however you like it. It's got the elastic band inside there, so one size fits most on these, and it's a good yarding around gardening hat. You're riding the tractor, riding the lawnmower out there.
Now, I got a big old jug head, and this fits me fine.
Go ahead and model it for us here. You could use a haircut, couldn't you?
Yeah. Ain't that pretty?
There you go. That's nice right there. You need your overalls on. You have your overalls and your straw hat.
My new Hall shirt, overalls, and I'll be.
Anyway, so we got those on the site. If you want to check those out, we do got a very limited supply of those right now. We did a small run to start with just to see how everybody liked them. We can certainly get more if we need to. I think that's it. Last thing I was going to say, don't forget we're still accepting those testimonials. We'll have the Dropbox link below the YouTube video there. Set your phone up on something, lean it up on something. Tell us what you think about us and upload it there. And if we use your video, we'll give you a nice little prize. All right. So this week, we don't really have a main topic. We just got a bunch of good questions from last week's show, and we're going to kind of bebop through them here. We got 12 questions, and
how's my microphone? Is it like it ought to be there? I'm a little concerned about this. When I did that cowboy on the bandana, I think I might have messed it up.
You might be all right. And when we get through with all 12 questions there, we're going to draw a name or two and send the 2 lucky people a little merch pack.
Merch pack. I like that.
You like that?
Yep. So question number 1, we're going to do a rapid fire. So question number 1 is from Cooking Mom, which is one word, and they want to know, how is the flavor on the red snapper tomato?
Well, I brought now this is going to be a little bit biased because these things ain't quite all the way ripe. This is as ripe as I had because we canned a bunch, and the second set there hadn't got real ripe. Cut that one up there, and I figured I've already ate a few. I think the flavor on them is really good, but cut that one up, see if that one can be eaten.
It's a little pink, but we can try it and see.
Pretty good considering it ain't all the way ripe.
Nice big tomato.
Now these are actually on the smaller end of what I've been harvesting, which are just fill up your entire palm. And I was talking to a seedsman the other day, and he said a lot of the commercial guys are catching on to this variety, growing it because of the vigor and the size and everything. Flavor has been really good so far, and just can't complain about the red snapper. It's definitely a winner for me.
You know, it's probably the first tomato seed we sold out of this year because we was limited supply on them, but they went really quick.
They did. We'll do some, once they all, in an upcoming show, we'll do us a little taste test with all of them, and maybe blindfold. It's your turn to get blindfolded again.
Yeah, it is, unfortunately.
All right. Number 2 is from Dawn E. She says, I'm in South Louisiana and my garden is suffering. So as I'm pulling up all those dead plants, I was wondering about your summer cover crops. Need something to plant to help soil before I start my fall winter garden with cold crops. A lot of people asking about cover crops, which one I need to plant, how I need to get. People thinking about fall planting already.
Well, you got to think ahead. This is a perfect question for the perfect time. So when we talk about cover crops, we want to know that they can do things for our soil, and different cover crops do different things for our soil. The main thing is they stop that erosion and they kind of scavenge our nutrients up, and they keep that soil alive, keeping it fed. My favorite cover crop, and I go back and forth on these at the moment, is sun hemp. I just love sun hemp, but I don't like to recommend it for people that's got a small backyard garden that may not have a tractor, so they can get rid of it if they plan on letting it get full size. So if you don't have a tractor and you plan on letting this sun hemp stand out for a while, I don't know that I'd recommend that. Now, if you till it in before it gets full maturity, mow it in, till it in, it's fine. But it gets a woody branch on there, it gets kind of hard to do away with just a regular lawnmower. But it's absolutely my favorite at the moment. If you've got a spot in your backyard and you're limited on equipment, buckwheat is wonderful. Buckwheat is great for those pollinators. It's easy to get rid of. It does a lot for your soil. So I'm recommending buckwheat. If you're dead set on a legume, to pull that nitrogen back in there, you can also go with some iron clay peas. They're easy to get rid of. So iron clay pea, buckwheat, or sorghum Sudan grass, if you're limited on equipment. If you're not limited on equipment and you got a bigger backyard or a bigger garden, you got a tractor or rotary mower, hands down, go with the buckwheat. Now you may want to follow it up, sun hemp. You may want to follow up with a different one, because if you got a long season there before you plan on planting again, you may can squeeze another one in there and you may can get you a buckwheat or sorghum Sudan grass in there. But if you have the opportunity to use that sun hemp, I promise you won't be discouraged. You'll be surprised what it'll do for your next crop that you're going to plant behind it.
I did a little experimentation last year. And tried to mow the sun hemp and let it regrow like I did the sorghum Sudan grass, and it will come back pretty good. So you can mow it at about a foot or so tall.
Oh yeah, or even a little bit taller than that. But that stuff, if you let it mature out, it'll get 5 or 6 feet high.
Oh yeah, and it gets kind of woody. You need a brush hog to take care of it.
Yep. All right. So the next one comes from Kelly Page, and she says, I planted temptress sweet corn around the same time as y'all did. Y'all, that's a southern word there. You know where she's from. What fertilizer is the best for quads? She's talking about quad sweets. I use Stanky. You know this girl is from the South, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana. She says, I use Stanky fish juice and calcium nitrate. Mine not quite high yet. What do I need? So, I'll give y'all a little tip I've been experimenting with this year on my corn. So, I start off with some 20-20-20 micro boost. That's what I give it when it gets about 8 inches to a foot tall. I've fed it with that a couple times. And I know this, I did this with my what did I plant first? The Avalon Triple Sweet. I did it with that because it wasn't looking quite as green as I wanted to right before I knew it was going to tassel. So I did it with that, and I just did this with my Temptress. My Temptress has looked pretty good the whole way, but that Avalon, I tried this with it right before you think it's going to tassel, getting close to it. I actually put a whole quart of this in my injector for 1,000 square feet. That's maybe a little much, but it's worked like a charm. This fish and guano here, usually fish emulsion is a little slow, but the guano in this gives it a little pop. So if you can inject some of this right here, just that last fertilization, and it kind of pops it, and just it's kind of a, I don't say a slow release, but I don't know, I'm sold on it. Doing that. It was an experiment. When I tried it with the Avalon, it worked super good. I did it with my Temptress, and it's worked like a charm going in there. And it also helps, we don't keep putting so many salts in our soils. We do the 20-20-20 micro boost earlier. Then I came in there with this, and it just finishes off corn remarkably well for more of an organic fertilizer. You know, that's the key with fertilization, is being able to rotate that and not using so many salts, and use some of these organics that feed your microbes there. It's a good balance to have.
So I would recommend a little bit of that. If your corn's about high, getting on up there this time of year, pop them with some of that. Number 4 from Randy Lawless. Hey there, fellas, another quick question. In your opinion, how long does okra last in the refrigerator? Just now starting to pick his jambalaya and red burgundy. I'm wanting to get him a good mess before he starts freezing, pickling, and eating it. Also win with the new heavy-duty sweeps being stocked.
We just, this soup that we made right here, we had some okra that had been in the refrigerator for 2 weeks.
Okra.
okra had been in the refrigerator for 2 weeks, so I know it was stored at least 2 weeks. If you cut into it and it gets a little mushy, you know you waited a little too long. A couple of tips on how to do this. You don't want to wash your okra before you put it
Dry.
in your Ziploc bag to put it in your refrigerator. And you never want to pick okra wet. So you want to make sure when you pick your okra or you cut your okra, as we say, then you don't wash it, because when you wash it, that's asking for problems. Put it in a Ziploc bag or this bag here like Travis likes to use. And then
If you poke some holes in it, it gives a little airflow. Whether you use a Ziploc or these grocery store bags like I use, put them in there, seal it up, poke a few holes in it, and you can get a week or two out of it.
No, the problem is most people want to wash everything when they put it in the refrigerator, and that's the wrong thing to do. I tell you 2 things you never want to wash: is cantaloupes and okra.
And I don't like washing greens or lettuce till I'm ready to eat them.
No, but that okra will go bad in a hurry when you wash it.
Yeah.
So don't wash it. Put it in that refrigerator, and it'll last at least a couple of weeks.
You can wash squash and cucumbers. Don't be washing your okra.
Yeah, and don't be picking your okra wet. If you get a rain or a heavy dew and it's wet, wait till it dries up before you go out there and pick it.
Last 2 afternoons, and probably going to be this afternoon, I got okra that's, I'm just going to have to just cut it and let it fall on the ground, because I ain't been able to pick mine because it's been wet, and it's just one of those things.
No.
What about the sweeps?
Sweeps, ooh, I hope next week.
That's going to be exciting. A lot of people are ready for those big, those thicker sweeps.
They're at the plating company now, getting a zinc black plating put on them. So as soon as we get them back from there, we'll have them on the
Then
side.
get sharpened after that?
No, they're sharp now.
They're sharp now.
Sharp now, then they're sent to the plater.
Okay.
All right, next question is from Bluegrass Luke. He says, you mentioned your property is near commercial farmland. Do you have any issues with spray drift?
So yes, his garden and mine is surrounded by thousands of acres of commercial farmland, mostly cotton and peanuts, a little bit of produce, mostly cotton and peanuts. And with the cotton, they're spraying that with Roundup. The peanuts, they're using that, was it paraquat on that, which is some pretty bad. You wouldn't want none of that on your garden.
No.
Now, they used to spray most of it with tractors around my house, and they still do, but they do a lot of the Roundup spraying with planes now. And I have heard of people around the county that have had some issues, but I have never had any issues with any spray drift. And all the farmers I talked to said that, I don't know if it's included in the Roundup formulation now or they added in there, but they use this stuff called Intact, and it's what they call a drift reduction agent. And
they used to use a product called Drop a long time ago.
Yeah.
Same thing, but what it does, if you've ever watched that crop duster when it comes by and they release that spray, it just makes that fall right there.
And when they spray those fields by my house, believe it or not, they are pretty dang accurate. I mean,
I don't know, but they are.
I don't know how they are either, but they get it pretty close, because there's pine trees around there and stuff, and man, I don't know how they get it so close, but where I live, the guy flying the plane is pretty good, and I've never had any issues.
Yeah, Roundup does not drift. You never have any problems with Roundup drifting hardly. It's not the type property in it, it just doesn't drift. Now the issue with drift has always come from some of these 2,4-D products and the 2,4-D cousins. Triclopyr is one of them, but those chemicals are not used near as what they used to be. So used to we had a lot more problem with drift than what we do now. Your 2,4-Ds, your triclopyrs and all that, man, those things would volatilize and they would drift terrible.
What about the dicamba?
The dicambas are drift bad too.
Yeah.
And so we've had some issues with some of these GMOs have the gene so they can spray dicamba over cotton, and they've had a lot of issues with those, and they've just about quit using it in this year on kind of all those drift issues they've had. But that's been a significant problem. A lot of lawsuits on that.
Yeah, well, they had that, the pigweed got resistant to Roundup, and then they started using dicamba. And I think most of them, at least around my house, have realized that going no-till is the solution to the pigweed problem as opposed to going to a stronger chemical.
Yeah.
Number 6 is from Craig Lamb. He says, do you ever use foliar fertilizer feed, and why or why not, and what product would you use?
I do, and I have used some of the 20-20-20 at a very low rate and the microbes as a foliar feed. However, I don't do it very often. I would prefer to put it at the root system and let the plant take it up than a foliar. Now, a foliar feed most of the time the plant reacts quicker to it because it's on that leaf, but the uptake on it can be very minimum. So if you're trying to do a quick fix, there's nothing wrong with trying to do a foliar feed. We see that a lot on greens. If you're trying to get some cosmetic issues straightened out and you need a little more greening, you can do a foliar feed. They pop to it real quick. Longer term, I think a root drench or shooting your fertilizer through the injector is healthier for the plant because the plant can take it up easily and you can get more in the plant.
I have foliar fed before. I'm not completely sold on it. I'm not saying it doesn't work. I'm just not completely sold on it as a long-term solution, like you said.
I think you're better off to do the soil drench as a complete program. Now, I'm not saying that there's not particular instances where you might need to go in there and foliar feed, but for the most part, I go with the soil drench. All right, and Miss Kara Curtin, boy, she's got the name here I'm having trouble with. Ormston. She says, Travis, do you think the butternuts could be trellis? She's talking about butternut squash, I'm assuming.
Yeah, they can. Not on our Horta Nova, they can be on a cattle panel. Jason over at Cog Hill grew, I think, the Hoss butternut variety on a trellis, a cattle panel last year, and that worked pretty good for them. So yes, you can grow them on a panel. I don't know that I would grow that South Anna butternut on a panel just because it makes so much foliage. But yeah, you can grow that Polaris butternut we got or that Hoss butternut on a cattle panel. Just make sure it's well supported and should do fine for you. Number 8, Cheryl Bertolini. Do you have a recipe for the salve?
Yeah, I'm assuming she's talking about the one we did last week when I brought the jar up here. What was the name of that flower again?
Calendula.
Calendula.
Before when you talk about yours, I'm gonna show mine here in a minute, but you go ahead.
Well, I got in a little bit of trouble. Miss Hall said I didn't go into enough detail on that last week, and I said, well, I didn't mean to. I was just meaning to talk. It had more benefits than being just pretty. So she wants to post that recipe, and we'll post it, I guess, in a blog format or something like that.
Yeah.
And she used coconut oil in her base, but I think you didn't, right?
So what y'all made was a salve, which is more like a almost like Vaseline kind of texture.
It's got an oil base to it.
So what we made was actually an infused oil. And so I'll tell everybody how we did this because it's probably different than how you did yours. So what we did is I picked all my blooms, those deadhead, and we put them somewhere. We put them out there on my onion rack actually to let them dry. Once they dry, we harvested just the petals, okay? And we took the petals and we put that's what all you see, these little strings is all those dried petals. We put those in this jar here. And folks, if you ain't used these little flip top jar things, you don't know what you're missing. These things are so handy. But anyway, we put the petals in here, and you could use several different types of oil. We use almond oil. So I went online, bought some almond oil, and we poured it in here. Now you have to wait, I think it might be a month or so. You have to wait a little time before the stuff inside those petals, the good stuff or what one actually infuses into that oil. So when we buy that oil, it's almost like peanut oil. It's real clear. It's definitely not orange like this. So this is how we know that the stuff from the calendula is infused in here. And you use this much like the salve. My wife claims she went this route because this is a little more versatile than the salve as far as applications and how you can use it. But yeah, you basically just pour the oil in there, let it sit, wait till it infuses. And then this morning, before I left, what she did was she just took a cheesecloth, she put all this in there and just kind of squeezed it into here, and that should last quite a while. I'm gonna definitely grow some more calendula this fall and make some other stuff with it, but happy with that so far. And that's some good smelling stuff right there.
So you can use several different bases with this stuff. You can make a salve, you can make an oil, and we'll post both these recipes we're at.
Yeah, we can do it on the blog.
Yeah.
On there, and maybe we should this fall, once I get some more going, we can kind of do a video and show the step by step of it.
It's definitely a flower that keeps on giving. I mean, it's a beautiful flower. Then you
get the insect repellent properties of it, plus you get to use it that way. Lots of good stuff.
All right, so Janice Empston says, I really enjoy watching row by row in your other videos. I learned a lot from y'all. I only do raised beds and container gardening. I'm trying to figure out how I could or should I use cover crops. I don't do any tilling. How would I go about working it into the soil? Should I add cover crops to my compost, let it decompose, and then add it to the garden beds the next year?
Okay, we talk about cover cropping a lot. We get a lot of people that are doing raised beds and want to know if they should be cover cropping. Can they? How do they do it? A couple ways, and I've never done this, but a couple ways I can visualize how it be done. Yes, you can plant a cover crop in your raised bed really easily. When you need to get rid of that cover crop, couple ways you could do this. I think probably the easiest way to do it would be to just go in there with a weed eater or something and chop it down. Now, as far as getting rid of it and getting that soil prepared for something else, a couple things you could do. You could tarp it. You could take your digging fork, go in there, kind of turn it over. If I was going to turn it over with a digging fork while it was green, I'd probably then come on top with a layer of compost or something like that. So there are several ways you could extinguish it without a tiller. In a raised bed situation, you just take I remember having to do that with Miss Hoss's beds when I was younger. Go out there with a fork and kind of turn it around, and mend it. But yeah, the cover crops on any scale are going to be beneficial, and even in a raised bed, you don't need a tiller to turn them in. Especially if you had like some radishes or stuff, you could turn those over with a fork.
Yeah, clover. Clover's another one comes to mind that'd be beneficial for that.
I got to turn the page here.
Yes, you do.
Got a few more left. Casey Brand says, do you ever use equipment/tractors to garden? I know y'all sell wheel hose, but was curious if some of your customers use both.
Yes, some of our customers do use both, and you kind of got to do what works for you. Now, we have tractors and things like that and implements, but we do not use them in our vegetable garden because a few years ago, we made the decision to start doing a little different system there. So we put these...
Part of our design go.
We put these smaller beds in there, and we found it easier to manage. And also, you don't have to have big equipment to grow a vegetable garden. So everybody has this idea that they got to have all this equipment to grow a vegetable garden. Really and truly, you don't have to have that much. And when we do our videos and everything, we try to prove that point. We don't use tractors in our vegetable gardens because we simply don't need to. We do use a tiller and wheel hose and equipment, supplies that we sell, and that's pretty much it.
The way we have ours set up, I always tell people that a tractor would make more of a mess than it would help. Now, I see some instances where I could use a tractor to spread compost in my plots. I could see where that would help to me. But as far as doing something where I'm going down the plot, having to turn around back and forth, all I would do was make a mess in my grass between my plots.
Now, if you're in a situation where you got a lot of land and you do use a tractor,
100-foot rows,
that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's just we prefer not to do that. And we do it for a couple of reasons, like Travis said, it makes a mess, but also to prove the point that you don't need all that to grow a big vegetable garden. You can do it with a limited amount of tools and a limited amount of investment.
Right. I could just easily take my 6 plots and make it into just one big plot, and a tractor would work great for that. But we try to show things, and I know our scale is not small compared to a lot of people, but we try to show it on a smaller, more simpler scale, just for the sake of instruction.
Sure. Miss Miranda Kelly says, hey guys, I usually prune indeterminate tomatoes and of course leave my determinate varieties alone. Today I heard a man on YouTube say, do not prune your cherry tomatoes. What do you fellas think about that?
I don't prune mine except for the case if some of them that don't get wrapped up in the trellis, if they start wandering along into the row there, I might cut that branch off. For the most part, no, I don't prune mine. And you can prune them, there's nothing wrong with doing it. Down here, the thing is, just like this weekend, we had close to 100 degrees on Saturday. This keeps up, they're gonna be toast pretty soon anyway. So I just let them go, pick what I can off of them. Come mid-July or so, the disease or the heat's gonna get them one. And so I just let them grow while they can grow, and then we'll get them out of there once that pest and disease pressure just takes over.
Yeah, I never prune mine either. I don't think it's worth the effort.
If you lived in a cooler climate and they was going to grow all the way to the frost,
yeah, maybe
then you could do that.
You know, another thing too, that all that foliage underneath there does help protect them from sun scald somewhat. So that's always been my thought.
Last one is from Pete Hands. He says, you guys are doing great. I've wondered though, I've got a small garden about 200 feet in zone 5. How do your seeds do up here? And what do you need multiple plants of for cross-pollination? In other words, what crops can I just plant 1 or 2 plants? What do I need to plant several? I thought this was a really good question.
Well, first of all, I don't see any reason why you couldn't use our seeds. Now, you're going to plant them at a little different time than what we do, but I think our seeds would do great in your zone. So let's talk about what you could plant. He's got a small garden. So a small garden like that doesn't really tend itself to corn very well.
Corn's one of those things you need several plants for sure. If not
you need a little
rows.
square plot of those. I've seen people do it in raised beds. That's getting on the borderline there about corn. So tomatoes, peppers, which are what we call high quality crops, I think you could do well with those because you don't have to worry about pollination on those. Squash, any type of squash, I think you could do fine with. And don't get hung up on cross pollination. I think you mentioned cross pollination there. Don't get hung up on that when you're just growing a vegetable garden for seed, because it really doesn't matter a whole lot if something does cross. I mean, it may be a chance it would cross. If it does, it's no big deal. Now, if you're growing for seed crops, a whole different ball game. But in a small garden, I wouldn't get hung up on cross-pollination a lot.
Yeah, the only things I can think of are corn, and maybe if you grew those gynoecious cukes, which you have to plant, you know, so many of those,
right?
25 seeds or so. But for the most part, you can pretty much grow.
Yeah, I wouldn't let that bother me a whole lot as far as cross-pollination.
No.
That's kind of a deeper subject if you get into a bigger garden, as like I said, if you're growing a seed crop, or you're trying to save a particular variety to pass down for generations and keep it pure, you can dive a lot deeper into that subject.
All right, so we had 12 questions, and I got a hat here with 12 numbers in it.
And this is for the merch pack, eh?
So we're gonna give away 2 merch packs. So if we draw your name here, draw your number and say your name, send us an email to cussserve.com with what color hat we're gonna get. Well, not the straw hats, but one of these here. I can't flip it over because everything fall out. But tell us what color of these you'd like, and we'll send you some nice other merch with it. You can even send us your shirt size if you want to. So you draw one out of there. What we got?
Number 11.
So Miranda Kelly, winner number 1. Draw one more.
Huh, number 12.
11 and 12, so Pete Hands. So Miranda and Pete, send us your address and info, and we'll get you a nice little prize pack out. I enjoy these Q&A shows. It lets us cover a wide range of topics all at one time. And folks, don't give up on your garden just yet. You still got a little time to squeeze some stuff in there, or be thinking about your cover crops. Just whatever you do, don't let that garden just grow up with weeds during the summer. Then you have a mess getting it ready for fall. Take care of it during these hot months and have it ready when that fall planting time comes.
Enjoy those flowers, enjoy those cover crops, and life's good.
That's right. If you enjoyed this video, give us a big thumbs up or a like. Remember to hit that subscribe button, hit that bell button so you get notified every time we come out with a new video. And if you did like tonight's show, check out these other 2 videos right here. I think you'll really enjoy those as well. We'll see you guys next time.
Take care.